can I open this? Can I?
Yeah. So if you put,
He's got the little magnets. Look. See, I don't do much of this, so I don't invest in all the toys. And I've not got a multi-millionaire backing me either.
oh, you mean Ricky? So if you put it on.
Today I have a very special vodka episode for you. A couple of weeks ago, I was invited up to Ella's Farm Distillery, just outside of York, here in the UK. Ella's Farm are the guys that make Dutch Barn Vodka. Dutch Barn Vodka is essentially an apple vodka, translated as vodka distilled from cider. Now, coming up in this video, I have two conversations for you. The first one with Chris, the owner of Ella's Farm Distillery, and we kind of get the founder's story, how it evolved, how they make the vodka. The second conversation is with Andy, who is basically his official title is on-trade controller, but see him as sales. Now, to break those conversations up, what I'm also doing is I'm going to put some of the team's favourite cocktail serves or simple highball serves in this video. Plus, at the end of the day, we also created 5 jug serves for the guys. So what I'm actually going to do, they've got the jug serves coming out on reels. What I'm actually going to do for you is break those down into highball serves. So basically, you've got 2 conversations and 13 drinks. Now, if you like what you hear in this video and you want to try Dutch Barn for yourself, the guys have very kindly given you a discount code which runs until the 30th of September. So you've got about 2 weeks to get involved in this. Basically, go to dutchbarn.com, go shopping, and then whack in the code STEVE15 when you go to check out, and you will get 15% off your order. Now, as this is a very long video, it is chaptered up, so feel free to skip about, watch the bits that you do want to watch, but I implore you, if you can, if you have got time, to watch the whole thing, because both conversations are very insightful, and some of these drinks coming up are super tasty. Let's start you off with the first cocktail. This is Chris, the owner's favourite cocktail, kind of how the journey started for him, as you'll hear. And it's a very simple martini. He is a big martini fan, classic. So I'm just going to do a very sort of standard, I'm going to go slightly wet, so like a 3-to-1 ratio here. So we've got the original, the OG Dutch Barn Vodka, and then crack out your favourite dry vermouth. Look, I'm not going to get preachy here about vermouths. Also will say is upgrade your martinis if that's what you are on. There's a whole wealth of different vermouths out here. I'm very lucky. I've got Vault just down the road, but keep it once open, keep it in the fridge. Try to use it within 2-3 months if you can. But the better the vermouth, the better the martini is going to taste. So I'm just going to do, so I've done effectively 60 ml here. I'm going to kind of do 20 ml for dry. My dry vermouth to give me a 3-to-1. And then to put my own little twist on the martini, I don't often drink martinis, but when I do, I can never be faffed to garnish them up properly, whether that's olives, whether that's with a twist. I just have loads of bitters around. So this is completely up to you. There's so many different flavours of bitters. I'm just going to complement this with just a few drops, probably about 6 drops of the orange tree bitters from Miss Better's. Now, one of the keys to a martini is try and keep your ingredients as cold as possible. The Dutch Barn is out on my back bar, but if you were going to make a perfect martini, your vermouth would be in the fridge, your vodka would be in the fridge, and you'll see in a second, my glass is in the freezer. And there we go, strain it into your favourite glass. If you want a twist, go for it, but martini, done. It's a great booze forward drink. I understand why people love it. I'm just not quite there yet to be my go-to booze forward cocktail, but it is flipping delicious. So you are the man behind, or one of the men behind Dutch Barn. Yep. The founder's story, like what was in a nutshell. How do we get to where we are now?
Well, there's a little still in there, in the visitor centre in there, which basically I was making cider at home just from windfall apples, and was making a lot of it because I sort of have a bit of a character flaw of I can't stand inefficiency. So I was making a lot by the end, and then decided to try and put it into a vodka. So I bought myself a little still online, sat on a little stove at home, nice. Didn't blow up. And then I bought, after that one, ran that I messed around for a couple of years, and then I bought myself a 7-plate like hillbilly still, yeah, which I've still got at home. It's about that tall. Wow. And I just sit out the back with my dog and basically for a couple of hours distilling cider into vodka.
So the whole company. So we've got Ella's Farm here is the overriding company, but the whole company started from vodka, not from like what most people are doing these days. Let's make a gin.
No. The original idea was basically, I was doing the vodka anyway, and then when COVID came down and lockdown, I was sort of bored. So basically just started, okay, if I was going to do something, what would I do? And I was really drawn to the idea of doing vodka properly because there wasn't a vodka brand that appealed to me. There was just all those shallow, blingy, show-off brands like how much does it cost?
Are we going to name and shame any?
Well, the great...
You don't have to go down there.
Grey Gooses, Belvederes, and then you went into all the weird ones out there, the Belugas and all these kind of things where I didn't want to buy any of those. But then all the other ones were just like, basically just neutral grain spirit with some water shoved in a bottle and then a bit of a story. So there was nothing there. And then I like the idea that what I was doing at home was you could make something that could actually bring something to a cocktail. So vodka didn't have to be this just unit of alcohol. It could actually be something that brought quality, brought some flavour, brought some characteristics. So wanted to do that, but then do it right. So from a sustainability, ethical side, wanted to build all that and build it up properly.
Now let's show you Ben's favourite served with Dutch Barn. He's the numbers guy at Ella's Farm Distillery. And he is a nice and simple black cherry and tonic kind of guy. Now I'm not the hugest tonic fan, so I don't typically have that much tonic here. And of course, Fever Tree, I didn't bother ask Fever Tree for any tonics there because I don't really use them. So I have just got, been out and bought a big bottle of, what do they call it? Slimline. What's it called? Refreshingly light. Actually, when I do drink tonics, I do prefer the refreshingly light tonics to the full fat ones. It's this weird thing. They actually taste sweeter for me, but hey, that's just there. So whatever measurement you're going for in there, top it up with your favourite tonic water. Then as the vodka is actually made for apples, and I don't have any cherries here, let's use a dried apple from Frona. Right, I can honestly say I've never had cherry vodka and tonic before, so let's dive into this. Oh, that's really good as well. Oh, I like that. The cherry, the juiciness of the cherry cuts through to the tonic. You don't get those overly bitter quinine notes from it. That's a stunning highball, actually. Oh, cheers, Ben. So just to touch on something there, and this is because I know there's going to be a lot of people that say this, like vodka tastes of nothing. It's just alcohol.
Yeah, but you've tasted this, so you know that's not true.
I know that's definitely not true. But how do we convince everyone that that's...
They can buy a bottle of Dutch Barn.
Where do they go? DutchBarn.com.
Yes.
But what I'm driving at is that we've come off the back. When did you start the company?
So started doing the work in 22, started building the team then.
So we're coming off the back of a massive gin trend.
Yeah.
Everyone in the industry, everyone's kind of talking about rum and people are talking about maybe tequila. Yeah. Why vodka?
It's the biggest spirit category in the world. So if I'm going to build a big brand, I might as well go where the volume is. And I was particularly drawn to the versatility of vodka because you can make so many amazing cocktails with a great vodka. And you can then sort of dial up and down and do different things, which I like, rather than the gins where you could get so specific of it will make that particular cocktail and it'll taste amazing, but you can't make anything else with it. Yeah, or even like into some of the whiskies where you could get really drawn into quite narrow bands. I quite like the idea of just the versatility of a great vodka because you can make sort of pretty much anything. Yeah. You can play around with flavours.
I love it. I love flavoured vodkas. Yeah. You know, I'm a rum person, but at heart, I'm what I call a disco bartender. So I like all the 80s and 90s cocktails, but bringing them back up to modern day specs.
Yeah, I've noticed on the content.
Kind of my wheelhouse. That's what I absolutely love.
They're good, but the flavoured vodkas was something I resisted for a while. I really wanted to just focus on a brilliant, great vodka. But then what we just kept getting from consumer feedback was, you're going to do flavours, you're going to do flavours. But then we started thinking, okay, if we're going to do flavours, how are we going to do them?
Yeah.
And we had to do them with the same obsession and passion about the quality that's gone into that. So it took us a bit of time, but then we, late last year, we just took the leap and put a few out, and they've gone really, really well.
And I will cover this probably a bit later in the video, but I've been over to the distillery over there, and there's not a drop of bottle in sight. It's all proper fruit distillates.
Yep.
And
all natural.
All natural.
All natural, yeah.
Which I was kind of hesitant about. I was like, how are they doing this? Because so many brands do the whole dropper bottles. You know, we all know that one of these dropper bottles like that, the industry ones do like literally 100 litres.
Yeah.
But you're actually doing proper fruit in there. So there's proper orange in the Mediterranean citrus. There's proper oranges and lemons.
Yeah, that's right. And so we play around with just trying to find the right way to get the flavour in the mouth, the flavour in the nose, and then particularly like working really hard of how's it going to turn up in a cocktail. Like that one there, the British Raspberry, which we developed to move towards with the Alchemist, was a particular kind of turn up in some serves.
Yeah.
So we then needed to see, right, we need the raspberry to come forward, and then how do we just kept having to bring it up with the natural layers. Just, I think we went through, I lost track of how many we went through to get to the point where it'll turn up in a cocktail and it's recognisable, beautiful raspberry flavour coming through. And then you were comparing them all against all the other ones that are just full of all the artificial junk. So.
And then I know another question will come off the back of this, and I've already asked this morning. I've got the answer, but let's hear why is the raspberry vodka, bearing in mind raspberries are red, why is the raspberry vodka clear, but the cherry vodka red?
That's a bit of a choice, really.
Yeah.
So the raspberry has actually got a little bit of colour in it, but I think we went very clear with that in the way that we were putting the distillates in there, and then the way we make the black cherries a bit different. So blending cherry juice. Yeah, there's all sorts of things in there, whereas so much of that is just through the distillation, where we put it in the pot, in the basket, and we're playing around with the actual distillates. Right. So there's a combination of things going on in each of them. So where it suits, and then also as visually how it turns up in a cocktail, there's different things we'll do different ways. So we're working on some other ones where we've, next door in the R&D lab, we've got some cloudy ones and some darker ones and different things.
Now the next person in the team is Tamara. Tamara is the events aficionado for Dutch Barn. If you've been to any of the Spirit of Comedy gigs up and down the country that the Dutch Barn have put on, that's Tamara that's been organising those. Her favourite drink is a plain classic OG Dutch Barn and tonic again. So, favourite tonic water, and as I said with Ben's, I've just got the refreshingly light tonic out here, so you do you with your tonic. But vodka and tonic used to be huge. When I first started bartending in the mid-90s, that was one of the big OG drinks. Martini and lemonade was one. Vodka and tonic was then much bigger than gin and tonic back then. Then again, might as well garnish with a dried apple. Oh, again, that is just. Perhaps I need to get into tonic. That's actually really delicious. I said earlier, I'm not the biggest tonic fan. That's a very delicious drink. Super refreshing, simple highball, vodka and tonic. Hey, but then when you're playing with like really, really good base ingredients, obviously the end result's going to be really good, isn't it? Cheers, Tamara. The name. So the name of the distillery is Ella's Farm. Yep. And you've got a gin brand with Ella's Farm. We can get some. Let's just crack one out here. The original Ella's Farm gin. Where does Dutch Barn come from? Why?
What's a Dutch Barn?
I noticed that when I walked in. So
that's simple as that.
Simple as that.
When you're going through a process to come up with a name, I mean, we went through thousands of names back in 2020 of like, okay, I want to build a vodka brand. What are we going to call it? And we looked at everything. There's people, place, provenance, all these sort of avenues you go down, and basically it was, we're coming to the site here because we're at the same time we're trying to find where we're going to build this distillery. And then my friend brought me to this place and he said, look, you're going to have to squint a bit. I don't know if you've seen the old photos of what it looked like.
No, I haven't yet. No.
Oh, they're on the wall in there. And you really had to squint. He said, look, trust me, it could be good. But we just kept talking about the site and kept referring to the Dutch Barn, the Dutch Barn, the Dutch Barn. And I genuinely was sitting basically out in my garden in the afternoon just going over names, and I just thought, the one that just keeps coming back to me is Dutch Barn. It's a bit weird, which is bit me, but it was also linked to the place. But it then also, hopefully it conveys something which is a little bit of, that it is on a farm, it is, different, and hopefully memorable.
But it's also what I like because, I've been a bartender 30 years. I've seen a lot of brands, I've seen a lot of marketing BS, should we say? you know, you've actually got an authentic story to back this up.
Yeah.
It's not just, you know, there's no gimmicks or anything here. There's a flipping great big Dutch barn less than 20, 30 yards away from us.
That's right. And, you know, it's one of the things we then thought about as we have big ambitions of what we do with this brand is we're going to make as much of it here as long as possible. But if we build another distillery, we'll build it in another Dutch barn.
Right, let's move on to your next cocktail now. And this is Keely. And Keely is right up my street because guess what her favourite cocktail is with Dutch Barn Vodka? The Pornstar Martini. So Keely, I'm going to rock out. I did it on the video a couple of weeks ago, but this is my best ever, the best ever Pornstar Martini recipe. So I've got a slightly smaller glass, so I'm just going to go 45 ml, 1.5 ounces of Dutch Barn's vanilla vodka. Now, of course, the passion fruit you use makes or breaks a Pornstar Martini. I've been firmly in Boiron's camp now for God knows how long. I'm going for about 30 ml here. 1 ounce of 100% passion fruit puree. We need some lime balance. So again, I'm going for a 30 ml, 1 ounce of 100% lime juice. Then of course we want a really, really good vanilla syrup. So I've got Bristol's here, 15 ml, half an ounce. And then double strain that into an ice cold glass. And of course we're going to garnish that with a dried passion fruit from my mates at Frona. God damn, I just can't stop drinking that. That is without doubt the best Pornstar Martini recipe. Keely, if you try that, if you get those ingredients, you are going to flipping adore that. That is so good. What is the vision of this? We can talk about the next couple of years here is just evolving the brands, but let's go 5 years, let's go 10 years.
Well, the big hairy goal that's on the deck and everything that we all talk about is to be a top 20 global vodka.
Wow.
So it's a big ambition.
Where are you now?
Not even close. No.
Top 100?
No.
How many vodka brands?
I'm
trying to count.
There are a lot of vodka brands. So to do that, we would have to be producing over 2.5 million 9-litre cases.
Okay, so what are we doing roughly now, ballpark?
We're in the sort of 20 to 40,000 range. So we got a long way to go.
All right.
Yeah.
So what year are we hitting this?
It depends.
What's the number on the board in there?
Well, it was meant to be in 10 years. So
10 years?
We're a couple of years into it now.
So 8 years from
we
now.
need to accelerate.
Wow.
But we're now in the US, we're in Canada, we're in a bunch of European countries. We're hopefully on our way to India soon. We're hopefully on our way to South Africa soon.
So
it's just
6
starting.
months into India, that'll be you'll be top 10 then, won't you? Let's be honest.
Well, it's still a premium product, so there's a lot of cheap products available there. So
right, let's get on to Gaz's favourite cocktail. Gaz is the multimedia manager. He's the guy that does all the content and he's got all the toys with the cameras and stuff. His favourite cocktail is the raspberry Mojito, but obviously made with raspberry Dutch Barn and not rum. So I'm going to do the very, very easy, quick way to do raspberry Mojito. No fruit, we're just using the raspberry from the vodka. So 8 to 10 mint leaves, whatever your go-to sort of mint leaf ratio. Palm your hand, give me a spank. Want 15 ml, half an ounce of a decent sort of 2-to-1 sugar syrup. I always think 2-to-1's like the best ratio for me. Now I've done 15 ml of sugar syrup. I'm going for about 30 ml, 1 ounce of lime juice. Right, then take your bar spoon. I'm not sure if you'll see that, but Dutch Barn have furnished me with like branded bar spoons. Look at that, but the proper size bulb on the end there, not a huge one. So the secret is don't muddle the mint. Just kind of, sometimes just spanking it does enough, but to get the extra out, you want a flat edge and just gently press your mint into your sugar and lime. So again, slightly smaller glasses, so I'm going for 45 ml, 1.5 ounces of the Dutch Barn raspberry vodka. My little secret hack is, well, it's not a hack, it's just soda water, but halfway up your glass, no more than halfway. Top up with a few ice cubes, take your long bar spoon, just give it a stir, just to combine all those ingredients. Remember your lime juice sugar's heavy, that's going to be sitting at the bottom, so stir it through. Another ice cube if you need to, and then garnish, just another decent sprig of mint. Back of your hand, await the aromas, pop that in. God damn, that is so good. vibrant, zingy raspberry comes through there. You don't need to add any form of raspberry to that at all. First sip of that, most people should be able to pick up that that is raspberry flavored mojito. That is really, really good. Simple, light, refreshing, light, clean, crisp, bright, my daiquiri sort of specs. That is fantastic. Now remember, if you like what you hear in this video and you want to try Dutch Barn for yourself and support the guys, head over to dutchbarn.com, go shopping, add whatever you fancy to your basket, and then for a little discount, you can use the code STEVE15, as in 15, just before you check out, and that will give you 15% off your order. But remember, that code only lasts until the 30th of September 2025. So about 2 weeks from this video going live. What's next then, like in the immediate sort of year? Like what are you've got the Spirit of Comedy thing going on, which is kind of cool, but what's as a vision for this place? How do we get out there in the UK market?
Well, I mean, Spirit of Comedy is critical, right? Yeah. So we started with the idea of Dutch Barn and it remains obsession over liquid and perfection. And everything we do, and it links to why Ricky's involved, is everything we do, we're trying to do the best thing we possibly can.
Why is Ricky involved? How did that all come about?
Well, it connected through a friend of a friend, but basically, we launched the brand in 22 when we turned the distillery on, and we were telling the story of liquid quality, we were telling the story of sustainability and all the things that we do, and it just fell flat because there's this huge gap out there between, I think the stats something like 80 to 90% of people say they consider sustainability when they purchase products. Less than 10% actually do. And you can't sit there and just basically tell people all these good things and great things. And it seemed what was becoming apparent was being a good brand was very, very hard to create, as someone said to me, friction. It's really, really hard to do. So when I then just exploring the idea of, okay, well, how can we create that? And we went down the route of thinking about the idea of talent. And then Ricky's name came up in a conversation, and I just had one of those light bulb moments. I still remember it, still have the email that I wrote straight away. And I just went, wow, if there's one person who absolutely gets quality, obsession, perfection, but also can create friction and take things to the edge with something like that, it was him. So I wrote the logic down, basically, and then we got into a conversation with his management over a few months, and then eventually he and I met. We spent a couple of hours and all we did was talk about sustainability, the ethics of the business, what we wanted to do. And then literally the next day, I was walking around in this yard and he called me up and goes, I'm in. Let's go.
So it was very much like an elevator pitch kind of thing to him. It was like not like the whole Dragon's Den thing, but it was like he had no knowledge of you guys. It wasn't like you were friends from years and years and years ago.
No. It was one where we just went through. A friend knew his management really well, and so we had a really good conversation. And his team did a lot of diligence on before I got anywhere near meeting Ricky. But then once we met, we just hit off. So
that's even better story because it's not kind of just someone coming in for.
Yeah, and everyone the people are like, oh well, let's create a story of Ricky found the product, and I'm like, no, it's bullshit. Yeah. And Ricky's all about authenticity and truth, and so are we. So we said, no, we'll just tell the honest story. The honest story was a friend of a friend, and we got talking, and it just happened to be he was looking to do something like this right when we were there. And then, as he said to me, this ticks every single box I'm looking for in something. And if I don't do this one, I'm never going to do anything. So let's go.
Now, the next cocktail I'm going to show you is a joint venture between Andy and Chris. They came up with this cocktail themselves. They've titled it the Amarena. So it's Dutch Barn Cherry Vodka at the base of this. So we're going for 1.5 ounces, 45 ml. As you may see in the video, Ella's Farm have their very own coffee liqueur, which smell well, I didn't taste it, but it smelled incredible. So I can't wait to see what they do with that. But the coffee liqueur I've got here is Solo. The ratios for this are 25 ml. So just under, well, I'm going to do, because I'm in ounces, I'm going to do 22.5 ml here. And then they call for 2 dashes of chocolate bitters. Now, I've got Miss Betty's here. This might be an online jobby for a lot of you, but if you can find Angostura cacao in some supermarkets, that'll be there. But on open and honestly, just from my point of view, the Miss Betty's bitters smash the Angostura out, the cacao bitters out of the park for flavour. So we're going for 2 dashes of chocolate bitters. We're going to stir this down and basically serve it up Negroni style. There we go, strain it into your favourite. This is just, it's an old-fashioned, not a double old-fashioned, just an old-fashioned glass. Now, I think if I was going to do this drink any justice, I would have invested in some maraschino cherries. I haven't got any here. Well, I haven't got any fresh ones here. I don't want grapefruit, do I? I want some orange. Here we go. I'm going to garnish this with an orange. First off, the aroma on this is something, I love that combination. Cherry, coffee, chocolate. That's a fantastic, that's got espresso martini written all over it, but this is the booze forward version, right? Oh, I tell you what, that's a bit naughty. If you're thinking like Negroni style, it's just got a little bit of, obviously because it's a coffee liqueur, it's just got that little bit of extra sweetness to it compared to like the bitter and the vermouth. That's actually very good. I'd be interested to play with different coffee liqueurs in there because we're going down routes of loads of different sort of coffee, different styles of coffee liqueurs available now. That is very, very good. So you've got 4 flavours and
At the moment, yeah.
proper. Oh, at the moment.
Yeah.
So we're, you might not divulge that, but at the moment, out of the 5, let's say the 5 because we include that.
Yep.
It's not flavour, the OG. Like, what's your favourite? What's the one you get super passionate about? Go. Your eyes light up. The story comes out. Try this. Like,
Well, the original.
the OG.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so much work went into that.
What's your drink? Like, what would you?
Oh, with that,
Yeah.
Martini.
Martini.
Nice.
Dry?
Yeah, dry, but I like them sort of into the wet space
Yeah.
a bit as
Okay.
well. I play around with one. I think I posted it and you commented on I called it the staircase, which was, using Dutch Barn and then some gin and some other things, but always playing around there. But then since we brought the flavours out, I mean, I play around with most of them, but the one I keep coming back to is the raspberry.
Raspberry.
So my go-to drink is a Negroni.
Is it a Negroni?
Yeah.
As if by magic, we've got this here. And speaking of the raspberry Negroni, let's crack that out. So this is where, it's another really simple cocktail. So this is where the raspberry vodka comes out to play. And I'm just going to do equal measurements for this. So 30 ml of your raspberry vodka. Then we're coming back to the guys I used in the Martini Vault. I'm very lucky that these are just down the road from me and I have left a couple of bottles of this up at Ella's farm as well. So the bitter, Campari essentially, but this is much better. So equal amounts, 30 ml of your favourite bitter or aperitivo. And then we want some of our Rosso vermouth, slightly sweeter than a dry vermouth, and very different characteristics. This one is fantastic. So we're just going for another 30 ml there. Now, as this cocktail is typically served over ice, I don't really kind of freeze my double old-fashioned glasses down. Feel free if you want to. If you want it super cold, these drinks always taste better super cold. And there we go, finished cocktail. And as I very rarely ever have fresh fruit around here, garnish dried orange. Do you know what? That is fantastic. I'm not overly convinced I've ever had a raspberry Negroni. I don't think I've done it with raspberry gin, to be fair. That is fantastic. That could quite easily become a neat sip for me. I love that. So what's next? What's?
So we've got
I've seen a couple of things in there. I'm not going to say what they are because of national secrets and,
yeah, exactly.
and all that, the official secrets.
We'll have to kill you. So we have a new flavour that we're going to drop beginning of October.
Yeah. I don't think popcorn's going to work though, to be fair.
No, it won't. No, I don't. No, that it would need to be a gold bottle if you want to go that flavour out. No, so we have one October, which is. A lot of what we're doing now with the flavours is trying to now think of how can we make a well-known serve, make it really easy but premium. So things like, with the Mediterranean citrus, I'm pointing down there because it's obviously there, but how you can make a cosmopolitan easier, and then the raspberry about how you can do different things. So now where we're going with the flavours is looking at things like Palomas or looking at mules or looking at things like that where we can then particularly with now we're doing a lot on these sharing serves of how can you just make life easy for people. Of like, okay, you got friends coming over. I don't want to sit there and be sitting behind a bar all night making drinks. I just want to bang, bang, bang.
Yeah.
But it want it to be good. So that's where we're going with those. So we got that, and when we have a limited edition, which you caught a glimpse of on the table in there, which is coming out.
Wasn't popcorn, by the way.
No, and the limited edition is something a little bit more special, and that's going to come out probably around Black Friday.
Nice.
Around there.
Is that November? No.
Somewhere in there, yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, they're the latest, and then we've got a really, really big idea flavour coming next year.
Oh.
Like a really big idea. So that one's
Oh,
might involve some casks, might involve a few different interesting things.
Can we talk about that? Can we talk about what's like over there on that banner? Can we talk about the whiskey?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I know this is a vodka thing, but that kind of blew me away. So what's the whole whiskey thing going on at the moment?
Well, the
You make.
Well, yeah. No, we actually have whiskey now. We do have it over 3 years, but we've just not released it yet. But a lot of distilleries, you'll know, like they were trying to do whiskey, and so while they were doing whiskey, they would go and try and do some gins and other things and flog some other things to people there. We built this very big distillery next door, so we had lots of capacity, but we'd always had this idea of doing a whiskey. So you will see this main pot still, it's got the swan neck and all the things. So we always knew we wanted to do it. So while we were essentially waiting for the demand and vodka to come, we started basically making the whiskey and building that up. So we've got, I think it's around 500 casks laid down now, aging out. We've got all different wood expressions playing around, predominantly first fill bourbon. And then we'll release that. The first release will come out in March next year.
Wow.
So we'll be dropping the name.
So what's the? Oh, I was going to say. What's this stuff called?
Well, we called it the Bairn because that's baby. Like the baby.
The Bairn.
The Bairn.
Bairn.
Yeah. So up in
the
north.
Yorkshire,
up in the north is the Bairn is like.
Here we go.
Is the baby.
Here comes Andy. The Bairn.
The Bairn.
Right. Let's get these on.
So we called it that because we weren't ready to launch the name, but the name's coming. But this covers everything before it becomes a whiskey, and then the whiskey will have its brand. So that's just 24 months. So we did the
because
evolution.
Because it can't legally be a whiskey because
you've got to be over 3 years.
3 years.
So we
over 3 years. 3 years in a day.
Yeah, that's right. So we released the Evolution collection.
Banana, fudge, buttery pastry, and white chocolate. That's got a bit of me written all over it.
Well, this is a pretty special liquid. I mean, you will expect me to say that, but genuinely, it is really, really special. So this was developed with Theakston, so we're in collaboration with them. So 200-year-old brewer, they really know how to make a beer. And whiskey is, a lot of people still don't know, is basically just distilled beer.
Yeah.
So we developed this, what we call the distiller's beer with them. It's based on a porter style. So lots and lots of flavour, and you can absolutely drink a pint of this. You'll get,
whiskey?
No, the beer, straight out of the vat, and no, it tastes amazing. Which most whiskey washers you would never ever drink, right? But that we took the same idea of, we're making good. I was making good cider, myself.
Yeah, pick yourself up, go for it.
But basically, the idea was then to make a great vodka from good cider. The idea of this was basically. Let's take a great beer. So it's not cheap to make that, but let's distill that. And so that brings all these incredible flavours because we've got all the layers of different malts in there and different roasts and stuff.
Like this, the new make.
And it is really bringing some great
cherry
flavours.
and spice.
Yeah.
So this is also, like when I asked you earlier, like what's next, we were very much on the vodka wave. But on a business as a whole, you've got, I've seen the amount of casks out there. There's a lot.
Yeah, and we've just bought. It's probably not even here.
Go on. What are we?
6 o'clock's not here, right?
Oh, see. Yeah, I've got a little bit of history with 6 o'clock.
And we've bought 6 o'clock.
You've bought that.
So
that's your little baby now.
Yeah.
Blue bottle gin. I'll whack it up on.
It's
screen.
over there.
Yeah. Wow.
So
you've bought that as opposed to why buy that?
So the
business decision, business discussion.
Well, the person who owned it was a big shareholder in us.
Right. Okay.
And so he and I had been talking about the idea of it made sense to combine because jobs like Andy's is be able to go out there and have conversations with bars and supermarkets, people like that. The ability to talk about multiple brands, and that brand I felt was it was already in the US. It's more scalable, and we could get more synergy with conversations.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of the logic of what it is.
It's a good business decision as opposed to...
And then what we'll now do is we'll take that brand through. It's already got a good base of sustainability. So there's some things that we're going to do to improve its sustainability, and some things about how we're going to reposition it to make it fit with what we're doing. But that's sort of an interesting thing as we have. So ultimately we'll end up with Dutch Barn, we'll end up Whisky, insert name here. We have 6 o'clock. And then locally we have our Y gin for the Yorkshire region,
I see these.
which are all these.
And Andy gave me the spice wherever it is.
The winter spice one,
It's up there behind me somewhere. Oh, is it? Yeah, no, it is. This stuff smelled, I haven't drunk it, it smelled incredible.
Yeah, it's a good one, that one.
Where's he got it? He's pointing somewhere.
Oh,
there it is.
There it is. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, let's have a little look at that.
So that one, as we come into this time of year,
should you do Negronis with that?
I
Is
do.
a Negroni fan?
I do, yeah. And there's a really nice one of that with King's Ginger as a Negroni. So
you could spot that above your head, just up there.
Yeah, so you take the put that in as the gin in their standard Negroni recipe, and it just all these spices and flavours come out. It's amazing.
The final thing I'm going to ask you,
and
this is kind of in my wheelhouse because I love liqueurs and I love flavours and all that. I've got it's 4, isn't it? But I've got 2 of them. What are they called? Just Ella's Farm liqueurs, small batch.
Yeah, small
Are we
batch.
doing anything with them? Because the pineapple and grapefruit's really good.
So the probably the one that we're going to do something with, I'm putting over there because it's behind Liam's head.
I thought you pointed to Liam.
Is the Espresso.
Espresso?
Which is over there. Which,
hello.
I think we've got it open. No, we've run out down here.
Right.
So this is one that...
don't worry about it.
We've got to open it anyway.
Coffee liqueur.
Yeah. So this is one where we think there's
28.
Something to do.
Made properly, I'm guessing, by the smell of that.
Yeah. So it's all... Essentially we've got coffee in all different stages. So we've got it in the pot. We've got it in the basket. We then do a cold brew bring down. So rather than doing what a lot of these are, wherever they are, these ones, which are essentially just
sugar,
cheap vodka mixed with cold brew
there's
and
rum
lots of sugar.
Come on.
Oh yeah, you got the rum ones, and then you got the vanilla ones and everything like that. That's actually just coffee, and then made from a coffee aficionado's perspective. So
what the base liquid of that? Sorry, I'm going to get geeky here for a second. Is that the vodka, or is that
Dutch?
that is
from
the Dutch Barn.
Yeah, essentially it comes from the Dutch Barn. So that brings that really little subtle apple, which when you look at coffee flavours, an apple belongs really nicely in with coffee.
So you've got the whole espresso.
So this one may make its way into being a new brand.
Yeah.
And we use the small batch as sort of like a bit of a playground. Let the distillers mess around and like with the YGs.
And I'm pointing to those two down there, but they're off camera.
Yeah,
have they got how much? Let's have a bit of fun and giggle here, because I know you're sort of a distiller as well. How much leeway have they got? If they got side little projects, we're getting some looks down there.
No, we're getting there. We've done some interesting.
Are you a
things.
control freak? That's basically what I'm saying.
No.
Is he a control freak? Perfectionist. There we go.
No, I mean we've tried.
We come together with one vision.
Innovation means you've got to try things. Sometimes things work, sometimes things don't.
Give me an example of something that hasn't worked.
No, I wouldn't want to do that. No, that's not fair on the ideas. But we've tried a bunch of stuff that we've got some really, I mean, Liam has done some phenomenal gins. So we've got some great gin ideas that we can play around with and do stuff. But gin's market's just so saturated. So we want to just do that more for people who just love great gins. Then we'll just put out small releases. So we only do 500 bottles of these when we release them. But these ones, where there's a good one and there's a market opportunity, so there's something to do with that.
So that is the 4th one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say.
So the cherry sort of evolved itself into the black cherry. Those two are cousins. And then we've got the pineapple and grapefruit.
Yeah, see, I like that. I'm a big lilt man, you know, the cans of lilt. I love lilt.
So we might be looking at some inspiration from that into some Dutch Barns.
Watch this space.
And then the elderflower, elderberry is one where we sort of, at the moment, we're sort of not sure where we go with that one.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
And it probably stands up better than like Saint Germain and things like that. But you got to put a lot of money in to make something a brand. So you've got to really see a big opportunity. So the most likely is we might do something with this because I think the team have made an amazing liquid with that. And then we've got some ideas of how we can maybe make it a little bit better.
Cherry espresso martini. I like a cherry espresso martini.
Yeah, we've played around with that. I mean, that was one of the first drinks that Andy and I sort of messed around with. We called it the Amarena, which was basically these two combining to like playing on a sort of a Black Russian kind of, but with the cherry in there.
See, simple cocktail. It's all about simple cocktails, isn't it?
Yeah.
Cool.
As long as the ingredients are good, right? So
I think on that note, I think we've got that. Whose idea was the bottle? That one. Then we started that. Wine and name, we've done that. Why apple? We've sort of done that. Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you, kind sir.
No worries.
Thank you. Cool. That was brilliant actually. I can when I edit, I can zoom in on you as well.
So Tilly didn't want to be on camera.
Can we get a stage shot of you both? Just
Yeah. What do you want? Line out. Focus.
Put the products in front of you.
Stage shot. Is that in there? Oh no, you've got a proper camera in it. Not like my iPhones. What order should it go in? Because I change them and I'm like, I bet they've got an order. I bet he likes them in a certain order.
I always put this one in the middle.
Yeah.
And then it's more about how does the colours hang together.
So I think raspberry and then cherry and then vanilla and then citrus. As in like if you go in from the outside, from the middle, that's usually how
He's got more of an order.
Yeah, I was good. Is that right?
Yeah, along those lines.
Are we sure?
Right. Big smile, lads. Big smile. Good leg. Got one more bit further back. Whoa. Cheers, guys.
Mate, that was brilliant. Thank you.
Yeah, cheers. All right, Steve. Thanks.
Love stuff like that.
I do love the concept.
I'm blown away by him there. I don't know how I'm going to get that, like, show it off better on camera, but there's...
Sort of, I think it's the scale. Get gas.
It's like...
Did the guys tell you about those columns? Like the story?
Yeah.
How they're meant to be too. They're meant to be on top of each other.
Oh, really? Yeah. No, I didn't know that.
No, so the planners wouldn't let us...
go up.
That was originally designed by Jamie.
So not the stripping column, the other two?
The rectification columns. Yeah, so that was meant to be one. And then basically the planner said,
why?
Because it would have been another 6 meters.
Yeah, but why do that?
Because ultimately, why have it vertically?
Yeah.
An incremental performance gain that you would have got in the higher you go with the column, and the more you can go, the basically the better the quality, and the more control you can have in basically the stacking.
This is what 70 odd plates I counted on there, isn't it?
Yeah, across the three columns. But the originally, that was Jamie's idea basically. So if you put it back together, it would be the tallest column in Europe to basically go after the highest quality vodka. But then the planners said no. So we then, with Barrisons, we then had to design the split columns next to each other, so they sort of sit on plinths, so they're elevated.
Right, now Andy's proper cocktail. While he said he loves the raspberry Negroni, he created the Amarena. I think he might have potentially created the ultimate espresso martini. Let's dive in for this one. So the base of this is the Dutch Barn Vanilla. He's got on UK measurements here, so I'm going to swap jiggers. 25 ml of Dutch Barn Vanilla Vodka. Obviously, they're using the Ellis Farm coffee liqueur, but as I said, I don't have that, so I've got the Solo, so 25 ml of that. These are based on unsweetened coffee liqueur, so not your Kahlúas or Tia Marias, more your kind of Mr. Black vibe of coffee liqueurs. 25 ml of semi-fresh espresso, made about 45 minutes ago. And if you're thinking, well, that don't sound like ultimate, wait for it. I guess he's a Guinness drinker. I guess he is. So I've always got tins of Guinness here, to be fair. Right, here we go. Just 25. It's a shame I've got to have the rest of the can, isn't I? 25ml of Guinness. There we go. Might just do a little bit more because that was a little bit foamy, obviously. There we go. So I've actually, bearing in mind there's a little bit of foam in there, I've probably added closer to about 40ml in there. Still not finished yet because we're going for the caramel syrup now. What's it said for this? 12.5ml. So yeah, I would see, I'll work in ounces, so 15ml is a little bit easier, but 12.5ml of caramel syrup. I've got Bristol here. And then to create that salted caramel vibe, he said a pinch of salt, which I think would be a lot easier for most of you. I do actually, staring me out in the face, I actually do have salted caramel syrup here. But of course, salt and caramel syrup does effectively the same thing, doesn't it? So I've got a saline solution here, 20% saline solution, 5 drops. Remember, salt doesn't make your drinks taste salty, it just elevates flavours, unless you add loads and loads of salt, but you never need to. Then he very specifically calls for a wet shake and then a dry shake. Whether he's using dodgy espresso or not and doesn't get the froth, I don't know. Don't know, Andy. But we'll do what he says anyway. And we're just going to double strain that into a nice cold icy glass. Look at that. I ain't gonna lie, Andy, that's pretty damn good. There's a whole lot. Guinness in there is really, really good. You don't lose the vanilla. The caramel, that you definitely get that salty caramel vibe there from there. That's a genius combination. Do you know what I'm actually thinking on that, Andy? For some unknown reason, my head is craving the raspberry vodka in there. Raspberry caramel? I don't know. That is a very, very good espresso martini. Cheers, mate.
So now we planted, I believe it was over 240 trees over a space of 2 to 3 acres. Well, there was about 20 different varieties that we planted, some of which were going to the point where they were going to be extinct. Some of which are kind of native to Yorkshire, so naturally we stuck on with them as well. But for me, I just love this walk that you do around the orchard. Like I do it with the dog sometimes. It's just nice to clear your head for a bit. So when you get visitors sometimes doing this whole walk around the orchard and realising what it is that we're trying to achieve here, you can actually see with the apples growing from the area where we've set up. Like you've got the Dutch Barn in behind you, the distillery. You've got the apple orchard here. So it shows that we're actually doing stuff properly here.
So what is the vision? I know we covered this earlier, but what's the vision for all this? Because obviously there's not enough apples here to...
Yeah, I think Chris has always been a big advocate of sustainability and the environment and everything, so has Ricky. So if we can give back to this area around here and plant some more trees or dig more ponds, etc., it's always going to be good for the environment. Okay, but yes, we're never going to produce enough apples to help us make Dutch Barn because we need huge orchards to do. Hopefully, like you say, you need huge orchards to produce a cider, to then produce a vodka, so on. But maybe one day, you keep going with it as it grows and grows and grows. We're creating a community in an area around here that can help apples grow and help the local wildlife population. And in particular, as I said earlier to you, we've got a deer population around here that certainly like to help themselves to the apples. This tree's probably one of the best ones as well in terms of getting some apples on there. But ideally, what we don't want is for it to grow apples. So we want to come out and pick them in the future because we want the trees to concentrate on growing rather than growing apples, because we want them to get nice and big over the next 5, 10, 15 years. You can see some of the size of these ones. They're proper like cooking apples.
So your sales role here, how... As I mentioned with Chris earlier, vodka's just vodka, right? So to a lot of people, how do we go about changing that? How do you get Dutch Barn in over the line?
So I think when I have sales meetings with buyers or bartenders and cocktail bartenders, nowadays I believe the story is people, particularly customers, they want a story. They want to listen to a provenance. They want to know where it's come from. And there's too many brands out there that are just masking it and hiding that. You can see everything here. It's made in that distillery. From this area, it's all up there. It's all under one roof. We make our own cider. We distill it into vodka and so on. People want to hear that nowadays. They love provenance. They love to know where their brands come from. Particularly with everything that's going on with British farmers and so on nowadays. We're giving back by buying apple juice concentrate and so on. So we're helping to build the community back up of farming and giving people like a story, like I say, on the menu. They're reading the story of the menu now and they're looking at some brands and thinking, never heard of that, because there's no story behind it. Whereas they read Dutch Barn and go, that's that one that Ricky Gervais went on about. And they've looked into it and they've gone, actually, yeah, that one has got a story, it has got a background, and they're B Corp, so they look after their staff well, and that's to me is the story. And that's what I think people now are starting to get more educated about, what, not just drink and alcohol, but food in general. They want to know where it's come from. They want to know provenance. They want to know the story, the background.
Now, the last 5 drinks that are coming up in this video, as I said at the top, we created some jug serves, because Dutch Barn are very much going to jug serves, like sharing pictures, that kind of stuff. So obviously I'm not going to make a whole jug here, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to break these down into highballs. I'm not going to shake them. They're 3-4 ingredient sort of cocktails you like, but super easy, super fun. If you want to see the jug version, then stay tuned for Dutch Barn's social media, and they will get dropped over the next sort of coming weeks and probably a couple of months maybe. So the first of which I'm going to call a Pornstar Spritz, but you probably might call it a passion fruit Spritz. You might see that coming up on Dutch Barns. I'm just going to make these smaller, less kind of boozy. I'm going for 30ml 1 ounce measures. Do you know, that's the whole point of these, okay? So 30ml of Dutch Barn vanilla vodka. And the whole point is, sorry, I should have pointed out that all these ingredients you get in most major supermarkets. So Rubicon is pretty much in every supermarket these days. UK, Ocado, you know, Morrison's, they Tesco, Sainsbury's, Aldi, they all kind of do it. Right, oh, there we go. So I'm going for, I reckon about 60ml here. So basically double the amount of passion fruit juice to vodka. That's what I'm going to say. Then pressed 100% pressed pineapple juice. And then what I'm going to say for this is half the amount of pineapple juice to passion fruit juice. So I've done 30ml of 100% pressed pineapple juice. Then, as we're calling it, a Spritz, topping it up with Prosecco. So it's actually quite boozy, this one. In the grand scheme of things. I'm not going to fill it all up. I'm going to add another wedge of ice in there. And then what I did in their video was like chop up 2 limes. So I had 2 whole limes sort of squeezed into the jug. So for this, I'm just going to go about 15ml, probably less than that. There we go. If you're making a jug of this, like whacking whatever fruit, fresh passion fruits, oranges, limes, you know, we used the limes in that video. Whatever you've got, that's the beauty of jugs. That's super good. Passion fruit, vanilla vodka, the Prosecco, you know, doesn't overpower that at all. It's a really, really fun, simple highball that you can really turn quite easily into a jug. I'd sort of missed this stupidly, but I don't know why, but it's distilled from, it's essentially a cider that's been that. And I can, like, don't know why, I just completely didn't contemplate that. I was just like distilling apples, but of course it's cider. So you've got that. It's a scrumpy. Yeah. So you've got that. So you're walking into a bar. As a business person, as not a bar owner, but someone who's like GM'd a lot and stuff like that. You've got a premium vodka brand.
Absolutely, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, how do we go about getting that in? Because the whole pourage, you're getting these pourage made for like the speed rail.
Yeah.
So how do you convert bars into a pouring vodka, bearing in mind you don't really want to come down to 12, 13, 14 quid.
Of course we don't. Yeah. So the way I do it, okay, so particularly if we want to target 4-5-star hotels and premium cocktail bars, they can stretch to bringing in slightly more expensive vodka. Would I go after the average Joe dog and duck pub for houseport? Absolutely not. There is certain brands, Absolute, Smirnoff, that are made for them, and that's perfectly fine. With them is where I'd squeeze flavours in and say, okay, you haven't got a cherry vodka on your bar, why don't you do a cherry Spritz? And a lot of bars will bring Dutch Barn in and go, it's not selling. And I hate that term. It's not selling. And my answer is, what are you doing to sell it?
Yeah.
Not it's not selling itself. Nothing sells itself on a back bar. What are you doing to sell it? So if they're putting it in a Spritz serve or they're putting it into a serve of some description, what's the difference between putting that into like if you put a rum serve on the menu, you put a tequila serve on the menu, why are you missing off a premium vodka serve as well? So Red Cat Pub Company is phenomenal at this, and the coaching in group, they put a summer serve on menu on this year with a cherry Spritz on there. Whose brand did it look for? Cherry, because no one else is doing a good cherry vodka. Nice. So in it went, and they're going on the menu. That's how to do it.
There was a certain bar, I'm not going to name the bar, but it was a certain bar I went into last night in York where I noticed, I think it was 2, but maybe 3 of your flavours just right at the back, like hidden. And I looked through the menus and I couldn't see anything. I'm just like, you know, I know full well those bottles are sitting there for months.
Yeah.
And that's, you know,
That's
you
the
can't
frustrating
have
thing that we
with-
get in this industry is, and they're the kind of people that will come back to you later and go, it's not selling.
Yeah, it's
We
not
tried to put
selling.
it on the bar once and it's not selling. Your clue in there is what you just said. You tried putting it on the bar. What did you do about your menu? What did you do about promoting it, etc.? What did you spoke to us? Because that's where we can step in and support them and say, why don't you try this cocktail? Why don't you try this serve? What about some commercial support for it to help it sell better and get your GPs better? What about other options that we have, like 10-litre polys, or we're looking at something else in the next month or so? Is it brings your price point down, but the 10-litre poly solution for me, it gets closer to price per pricing, but then you're also talking from a sustainability perspective.
Yeah.
You fill the bottle back up and then you've got no glass wastage.
Yeah.
Ever.
See,
You
I
just
like-
fill that bottle
I like
back up
that,
and goes
yeah.
back in your speed rail. Then you never have. Well, what's the worst thing at the end of a shift? Tipping the glass bottles out into the glass bin at the end of the night, tipping all the fever tree, all the beer bottles into
Waking
the glass
everyone
bin, waking the whole neighbourhood up. I worked in a pub in Richmond and you weren't allowed to do it until the next day because it would woke up the neighbours. So what if we take out all the glass bottles? We were taking that aspect out of it.
And to take this to a step level, I was actually quite surprised. Again, I didn't know what to expect coming here, but I was quite surprised by the team that you've actually got. You know, you're not just some little local distillery. There's a whole office full of people in there doing different jobs. You've got the marketing guys.
And that's
you know-
the thing nowadays. There's too many brands out there that are just a marketing team with a bottle.
Yeah.
We're the opposite. We have a bottle with everything. We have to have everything because when you're working with someone like Ricky Gervais, you need a big marketing team, obviously, because you have to produce content and so on. But then at the same time, you don't get very far in this industry without the best staff. And that's what Chris has done very well, is surround himself with some of the best in this industry.
Now, your next jug serve that I'm going to do is a highball. This ain't reinventing the wheel, but it should be, you know, it's a proper boozy cherry cola. All right, you know, instead of using like cherry Coke or cherry Pepsi Max or whatever you got, just go cherry vodka, which is fantastic. So I'm going to go 30ml, 1 ounce. And remember, the booze is up to you. Probably squeeze a couple of lime wedges into a glass, or as I did in the video, like 2 whole limes. But for this, I'm just going slightly under 10ml of lime juice. Then top up with your favourite cola. I haven't rocked out Fever Tree's cola for quite a long while, so this will be an interesting taste test. There we go, another cube of ice and just top that up. And then garnish. Your lime wedges will probably be the garnish for this. Maybe cherries on a skewer, whatever you got. That's getting demolished. That is so good. That little bit of lime juice just elevates that cherry. I'm not sure if Fever Tree Cola is my favourite cola for highballs. I need to go back and do a taste test. That's generally the first time I've had that in probably... Let's have a taste. I was going to say 3-4 years. Actually, it's quite nice. Oh, that's quite nice, actually. Ooh, that could be interesting. That's delicious, though. So when you go out, what is the easiest... are we going to come to a dead end here? Are we go through it? Like, what is the easiest flavour to sell? What's the big seller? Are we going vanilla for Pornstars? Are we going for raspberry?
And this is the thing, okay? So you remember, if you ever watched Wolf of Wall Street, they sell me this pen, right?
Right, yeah.
And he says, and then one guy goes, this pen's amazing, you should buy this pen because it's the colours and it's this colour, it's this and this. And he says, no, that's wrong, you're not selling it properly. I want to find out what their needs are first. And then you can say, right, okay, this pen fits into what your needs are. So if I go into a bar and they say, we're actually looking for a vanilla vodka because the ones that we found are all too full of sugar and too full of artificial flavours. What have you got? And that's when I step in and say, actually, we've got a vanilla vodka that's made using actual vanilla from barley, and we produce it properly with less than 1% sugar. And all of a sudden you've got their attention because it's something they've not seen before. I find out what they're looking for first, and that's the sign of a good salesman. That's what we do very well here.
Oh, look at him, look, good salesman, look at him, look.
But I don't want to just go flying in there and talk to them all about every flavour of vodka we've got. If they're not interested in even listening to the story, they might be looking for one particular flavour, or they might even be looking for a gin, or one of our liqueurs that we do. So I won't just go, straight bulldozing into the place and going, hi, I'm from Dutch Barn, and stick all the bottles on the table and go, buy this. Because that just doesn't work. You've got to find out what it is that they need first. And that's where we fit in. So if somebody's looking for a new house pour, I might say, look, at our price point naturally, because we're a premium vodka made from scratch, it's going to be naturally higher. But if you're willing to pay a little bit more and potentially look at a sustainable option for the 10 litre poly, then that gives you that kind of concept of what we're working towards.
I think we've come to the end of the line.
Normally you can go through that way when you take you out on a big woodland walk, and in the middle of this field here, we've actually dug our own pond.
Okay.
Which is for the local habitat. So
do you fish them?
No, there's none of them in there. I don't think there is anyway, but we've got a lot of insects that fly around it.
Yeah.
And obviously from there, you've also given them somewhere to drink from, like badgers, deers, etc., rabbits. So you do tend to see as well, we have got a local barn owl that lives on site. You don't see her around the summer. You'll see her more towards the end of summer, probably around back end of September. And as the lower lights come in at dusk and you pull out of the car park, she will swoop down over your car, over the window.
So that is the Dutch Barn?
Yeah.
Who lives in that house? Who's that house?
That's actually our friend that lives close by, Ali. She's lovely. That's her.
But that's why it's called Dutch Barn, because that is a proper Dutch barn over there.
Exactly, yeah. So on the old site was, like Chris mentioned too earlier in the videos, there was a Dutch barn there, an old kind of derelict Dutch barn, should we say? Yeah. So on the site there's the Dutch barn now that we built at Sellers Farm Distillery, but previous to that was an old Dutch barn, which for those that don't know, it's a high-sided barn with a curved roof. And now that you mention it and you've showed it, you'll spot them so many times now.
Now next, jug serve, raspberry Paloma Spritz, okay, or raspberry Paloma. So Dutch Barn's raspberry vodka. Again, remember these are just highballs, but the whole purpose of these, we were doing jug serves for Dutch Barn. So you'll see those reels pop up later. So the booze is completely up to you. I've used 30ml. Then again, in that jug, I chopped up and wedged up 2 whole limes. But for this, I'm going for like 15ml of lime juice, and you can afford to add just a touch more lime because I like to balance the whole grapefruity, Paloma vibe with sort of agave. This is Bristol's no agave. We're not going to get into why it's called no agave here, but just like about 10ml of agave, or no agave in Bristol's case. Then we're going to top up with Fever Tree's pink grapefruit soda, which you should be able to get those size bottles in most supermarkets up and down the UK, and if you're in the trade, you can easily get pink grapefruit sodas. This time we've got some heavier stuff like the agave's just going to sit at the bottom of the glass, so give it a quick stir. And then as they're right on top, and I got them out mistakenly earlier, let's just go for a grapefruit slice there, dried grapefruit slice to garnish. God, I love that. I absolutely love that. Grapefruit, the raspberry shines through there. You've got that little sort of sweet sour thing going on with the agave and the lime juice, complementing that pink grapefruit. They elevate that pink grapefruit and they elevate that raspberry. That's fantastic. That is proper banging. Are you excited about the whiskey and all that's coming?
That's like my background is I got into this industry because my mum has a house up in Autumnal in Scotland,
right?
Which is proper space high country, whiskey country, and every year we'd go up there for 2 weeks from the age of like 10, 11 onwards. And she would always drag me at that age around a distillery. So we used to go, and sometimes the kids weren't allowed in. So we just have to go tour the gardens while my mum went into the distillery, or her husband at the time. And then as I got older and older, I kind of really loved it. I loved the smell of it when you drove around whiskey country in Speyside. So then when I left the army into later on in life, and went back into working in bars and pubs, and I thought, you know, I wouldn't mind setting my own business up doing whiskey tasting nights. So I did, and then off the back of that, Distillery started saying, well, could you talk about our whiskey or our gin and our vodka? And all of a sudden I got poached by one. It was actually Yorkshire Dales Distillery, because they employed veterans. And all of a sudden I ended up at another distillery, and then eventually I ended up here. And it's that excitement now that we've got whiskey coming, it kind of brings you back around full circle, back to whiskey again. I know it's English whiskey, but it's just different.
There's nothing wrong with English whiskey.
And you know,
it's better than Scotch whiskey.
Shots fired. But the fascinating thing about it is, someone said a fact the other day was, if you combined all the English whiskey distilleries together, there's around 45 to 50 of them now. If you combined all of their output together, it is still smaller than the smallest distillery in Scotland for whiskey. Wow. So that shows the scale of what Scotch whiskey is compared to English whiskey. So next door we've got an Airbnb, which is more or less set up for stag do's and hen do's in a nutshell. So you can imagine it can get quite rowdy on there on Friday afternoons when they start moving in, ready for the weekends. And they will walk around some days, and we'll just kind of round them up like sheep and herd them back in, or we'll take them in for a taste of something, because then more or less they'll buy a bottle and they'll take it back into the house. They've got foot golf out here.
Yeah, I saw the foot.
In between the nettles, there's foot golf.
Is that what that is?
Yeah.
There's like a little flag there, and
yeah, they come out and they do.
There's a goal just there.
So yeah, so you kind of see them out here sometimes, and what better place to have a stag do and hen do than right next door to a distillery that you could do a cocktail night in, or a tasting night or something else. So.
He's got all the sales patter, hasn't he? He's got all the sales patter.
Apart from the pig farm next door, I won't mention that, which can drift the smell over.
It's a stunning view over there,
isn't
it? Look at that.
Yeah, out towards the North Yorkshire Moors, towards.
So that's their office and all that at the moment.
That'll take you out towards like Scarborough, Bridlington, out that way.
Well, it's a jug serve or highball serve. Number 4 is now the turn of the Mediterranean citrus. We just call this a Mediterranean Spritz. All right, so 30 ml of your vodka here. Again, as I've always said, look, do you with your booze measurements. Now I'm going to throw in a little curveball here, because in the video that we did, we actually complemented that with, I think it was Cointreau that we had up there. Could go, I would use orange Fortunello if I was here, but Grand Marnier, Cointreau, Triple Sec, anything kind of like that. I've got my mass market head on here. The whole point was we went to a supermarket and we could see what we could buy. So we ended up in a co-op. We couldn't really get too much. It was like a little village co-op, okay? But I'm assuming a lot of you have got access to supermarkets and stuff like that. So actually, what I would probably do is probably sub out the orange liqueur in this case, maybe bump up the vodka in that, but just go like little sort of, if you're going to do a whole jug in the video that you might see, maybe kind of like 25 ml or so of the, you don't need much of the agave, but just to cut the sort of, it was quite a boozy cocktail, that's what I'm getting at. So I'm just kind of cut that back a little bit with agave or no agave in this case. But then the mixer, because this is really good, and I know agave just works well with this. Again, every single major supermarket here in the UK, a bigger supermarket, will have this blood, Fever Trees blood orange soda. Really, really good stuff. And as I've got agave in there, do kind of need to stir. Haven't added any lime juice or anything like that, because the amount of citrus in that Mediterranean citrus vodka just kind of works for me. But what I am going to do, I am lucky here, I've got dried blood orange slices I'm going to garnish that up with. See, that is proper good. Just that little touch of agave, just to balance out that blood orange, balance out that Mediterranean citrus. That is proper good. That is if you like your Aperol spritzy kind of vibes, I want to do something slightly different, that is right up there. That is very good. Why are we wetting the casks? All right, Steve. Hey. Why are we wetting casks?
There's a few different reasons. Steve will probably be able to allude to that. Steve, why are we wetting the casks?
So that when we stack them, we can see if there's any leaks
Ah,
before we fill them.
leaks. Looking for leaks in case you didn't pick that up on audio. There we go, look. So these are all for the whiskey.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Look at all that.
Yeah, we've got quite a few filled ones now as well, so it's always exciting to see even more empty ones coming on site to then be filled and build up more, because they are for the future, if you think about it.
Yeah.
That's the future of this distillery. Yeah, that could be 10, 15, 20 years time out there. And this has evolved so much in the last 3-4 years since I started as well. There's even down to the path on the floor and everything, it was all worse than this. So yeah, this is it. This is where the magic happens.
Where the magic. This is the thing that got me straight away. Look at these little babies. And not on camera earlier, but Chris just told me after we did the interview that these two were supposed to be stacked on top of each other.
Yeah. Yeah,
Which
correct.
I find bonkers. Would have been the tallest still in Europe. They're fed. So that's the stripping column.
So the stripping column is called Magic Mike.
Magic Mike, there we
Magic
go.
Mike, the stripping column. And you've got the pot still, which is 2,500 litres, that's Granny Smith.
Granny Smith?
Yeah, and then we've got a demethylizer column, which is called Crystal.
Crystal.
Crystal, the demether.
Okay, that's...
Yeah.
If anyone is in any doubts that they're actually distilling vodka from scratch, you know, these tanks here, this holds the cider. What do they hold?
Yeah, this is where we ferment our cider in as well.
Ferment,
so
that's-
we'll add everything into a vat,
Yeah.
and it gets pumped into these tanks.
That is
So essentially, these are what we call washbacks.
Yeah.
In a nutshell. So they will ferment our cider, or they will hold our beer wash as well that comes
Yeah,
in
so
from
the
Pigs,
whiskies.
which is actually due this afternoon. So that'll come in and get left in there until it's ready to be used. 20,000 litres at a time.
What you're looking at now is, just in case you want evidence of lack of flavour bottlings or whatever the word, dropper bottles, these are actually distillates. Look. So we've got the citrus distillate, we've got vanilla distillate. There's nothing, the cherries all been bottled, but then we've got the gins and all that. So, there's no flavourings, It is proper distillates being used to flavour spirits.
And that's the key for what we stand for as a brand. There's too many of them nowadays in my eyes that are just whacking a shitload of sugar in artificial flavours, and it just doesn't sit right with me. Anyone can do that.
Yeah.
Anyone can flavour some NGS. We're actually producing proper distillates from fresh fruits, from a cherry juice concentrate gets added to it, from a vanilla extract and from Balinese vanilla pods and so on. So
How do we say that? Balinese.
Balinese, yeah.
Balinese. Balinese. I like Balinese.
So yeah, then you've got even the small pot still here as well. Now this is used to make the distillates, the small still, and used to make our gin. So it's quite unique, this one, because normally when you see a normal pot still, you'd see a small vapour infusion chamber at the top.
Yeah.
That's our vapour infusion chamber.
Okay, right.
Which is quite big compared to other stills that you would see at normal distilleries. So they go in the main pot. They would put big bags of juniper and coriander, and then in here we'd go with all our other botanicals and more juniper into our vapour infusion. So that's why our gin is quite a softer gin than normal, because everything's done through vapour infusion. Yeah. It still carries the hardness of juniper and the pine notes of the juniper.
I can't go over the size of those bad boys. Can you imagine? Can you actually imagine that and that stacked on top of each other?
So the fascinating thing about this, our still is heated up using water. So we
Heated up using
water.
Water?
And the water we use in the creation of Dutch Barn is from our own water source underneath the distillery. So which is hundreds of metres down.
Like that.
So because it's so far down as well, in our own water source, we actually have our own water softening plant on site as well, because it's quite hard water because it's been so far down. So we've got our own water softening plant that we use to make Dutch Barn. So a little bit more unique.
And then the final vodka we haven't used yet is the OG. We were going for an autumnal spritz. I thought we'd be easily be able to get the ingredients for this in the local co-op, but that local co-op didn't do us any favours at all. So this is what we had in our minds going forward is the jug serve, but you'll see what happened on there. So OG vodka here, just 30ml, 1 ounce. As I keep saying, if you want to go more, go more. The cloudy apple juice, that was absolutely no issues. I think we had Copella out there. If a local little village co-op has got cloudy apple juice, you're going to be able to get proper 100% cloudy apple juice anywhere you go. And cloudy is always better than the stuff from concentrate, the clear stuff. So I'm actually going to go 45ml here of cloudy apple juice. The bit we struggled on was fresh blackberries. You know, end of August, early September, I was expecting to find blackberries, but no, we couldn't do that. So I've just got one. These are quite big ones. Look at that. 3. Let's go 3 blackberries in there. And then, do you think we could find anything elderflower in that shop? No elderflower cordial, no elderflower presse, no elderflower tonic, but this was the vibe we were going for in there. I think we ended up using the Ella's Farm elderflower, this one, the elderflower and elderberry liqueur, and then used soda water. But this is very much what we were going for, like an elderflower presse, or in this case, an elderflower tonic. Just give that a little stir in, just to get those blackberries through. And you can garnish up with apples, with, you know, blackberries as I've done, with sprigs of mint. That would be a great sort of jug serve for autumn, right? And that is exactly what I was going for in that video. That just works. Oh, that is so good. Apple, elderflower, tonic-y vibes coming there. So you've got that bitterness just to pair back that pressed, that cloudy apple juice. Just the subtle blackberry notes come through there. That's awesome in a glass.
So these are all, once they're filled, they get stamped and labelled with the Dutch Barn, with the Ella's Farm logo. And they will sit for 3 years and 1 day. Do you know why 1 day?
Because it has to be over
3 years. If there's a leap year, that could push you.
Of course, yeah.
So there's a leap year, then you're 3 years and 1 day, you know it's definitely 3
Oh.
years. That's why. So 3 years and 1 day to be
Clever.
officially called whiskey. And the fascinating thing is, new make spirit will go into these as a clear spirit. That's
Yeah.
it. All the flavour and all of the colour will come purely from the wood.
And where's the wood from?
These ones are actually from Wild Turkey bourbon
Right.
in Kentucky. But we have different ones from different areas, depends where you can get them from and so on. We are looking at different finishes as well, so we've got a few white port ones, we've got all different finishes ready to go. In the next kind of, hopefully, like I say, Chris said it alluded to earlier, in May. A lot of Speyside stuff is entry-level stuff. So things like Balvenie, Glenfiddich, all those kind of guys, they will target kind of a softer feel with whiskey. Obviously, your more Isla ones, they use peated malted barley. So when it comes down to when they do malted barley, what you're trying to do is you're trickling it into germinating and then you stop it. So you heat it up. And if you heat it up using peat, you get a different flavour at the end. And that's what peated malt, single malt comes from. Other people will just dry it out naturally. That's how you get things like Speyside whiskies. They're more fruiter, softer whiskies. So ours will be more fruit. It won't be peated.
There's nothing here 3 years yet, is there?
Yes.
Or is there? There is.
Yeah.
So you've tried it?
Yeah. It's up there with Speyside
Is
stuff.
that- is
yeah.
that- wow.
It
There we go.
will, and I have no doubt it'll win awards. No doubt. Because if you think about it, we're starting with one of the best washes from the best breweries in the country with Theakston's. Now, they've got 200 years of experience.
Yeah, I'm not sure we've covered that yet. Actually, Theakston's, I think we. probably
Yeah, and I
have.
think a lot of people don't realise that essentially what whiskey is distilled beer.
Yeah.
But it's beer before it's been hopped. So it's kind of like a stout or porter style beer. So most washes are tangy and a bit sweet at the same time, so tangy and sweet, and they're a bit awful to drink. Ours is a good beer made by them that we bring in, we strip it down, and it goes into the stills and then into the pot. But we've got a good beer from the start, from Theakston's. You've got good distilling equipment. You've got some of the best distillers in the country, and you've also got Kentucky bourbon casks. So surely, at the end, it's going to be good. Fingers crossed, because we don't know until that 3-year point. We know that the stuff that's ready now is good, but the stuff we'll release next year, we don't know until we get to that point. So, and that's the beauty of whiskey. You've got to be patient. You've got to be patient and wait for it. You can't cheat the system.
I like unaged stuff, though. I'm all about unaged stuff.
Absolutely. I'm just like that. Beer.
Beer. We have beer. There's a lot of pints of Theakston's in there. Look at that. There we go. Look. So that's going to get.
Yeah, that'll get pumped in through the back door into the big fermentation tanks as a holding tank. Not one, obviously, it's already been fermented. It's already a beer. That'll get pumped into the big tank, and it'll sit there until they're ready to strip it down, which will probably be either tomorrow or Friday. Ready for then strip it down into the still, and then it goes to the cask after that. That's the beauty of it. At cask strength, it'll be anything over 60% normally is cask strength whiskey.
Now, if you're still here and watching this epically long video, I just want to give you my brief little spin on this. I absolutely loved and adored my visit up there. I've known Andy for a few years now. So me and Andy have a good friendship anyway. That's kind of how I got to learn about Dutch Barn. But just walking in there or driving in there and then walking into the distillery and seeing that they're doing things properly, seeing that they're distilling cider to make their base vodka, seeing what they're going on with the whiskey, talking to them about their sort of program with what they might do with the liqueurs and bring them in their own brands. If you've been with me a while, you know that I buy in to effectively the little guy that is doing it properly. I will always try and support someone like Dutch Barn that I've got access to, as opposed to your Absolutes or your Grey Gooses or your Belvederes or anything like that. I've got no doubts in my mind that these guys are going to go on to, conquer or at least get their brand out there in the world. I know they're in the US, Canada, and various other places now. I think big things are in store for Dutch Barn. It's a fantastic quality product, much like we got behind Chase back in the day. Chase was a fantastic product. Things have sort of changed there now because they've been bought out and things are but at the moment, Dutch Barn, for me, because you saw those stills, you saw everything, it's just a fantastic setup. The guys are amazing. I can't wait to see what comes next, and I can't wait to drop the 2 sort of quirky flavoured vodkas that are coming soon as well. So a big thank you to Chris, big thank you to Andy, big thank you to everyone else that just made me feel welcome on the day. If you're around, if you're up that way, just outside of, where are we, to the west of York, the real Stamford Bridge, not Chelsea's home, the real Stamford Bridge, go and check them out. The coffee shop there, you can pop in and have a coffee and ice cream and have a chat. It's a fantastic experience. So go and check them out. Guys, thank you very much. I'll see you next time.